Happy Saturday. Welcome everybody to the Empowered Living Community. We're going to continue on looking at our fully resourced program today. We got about I think it's about a 16-minute clip coming up. So we're going to start here in about a minute, give a couple of people a chance to jump in. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers here in the Empowered Living Community. I wish you a fantastic weekend with your family. And Father's Day is one of those kind of weird days for me in that my father abandoned my family when my mom was 3 months pregnant with me. So I never grew up with a father. And I know that there's many women who serve the role as fathers in people's lives. And certainly my mom served as mom and as dad in our home. And so for all of you who are moms who have served the role of a dad, happy Father's Day to you too. This is a day that I just wish that you have a fantastic time with your kids and do something special for yourself. So let's jump in, should we? So we're looking at the fully resourced program, and again, it's an in-depth program. It's 6 hours of content with exercises, and it's a mentorship program. So it comes with live interactive monthly mentorship calls with me for a full year. And we've been talking a lot about our programming and how our programs hold us back, how they create these invisible boundaries, and then we create attachments to the programming that we have. And again, most of this programming came to us before the age of reason. So when we were just little babies, and all the way up probably till about 9 years old is when we begin to develop real reasoning capacity. It starts to develop at around 9. All that programming that we have is still with us today, unless we've altered it or created new programming and new beliefs. So we're going to talk about how this programming came into our minds in the first place, how it gets anchored, and how it becomes our self-image, our self-esteem, our self-belief, the concept of our self-identity. So enjoy this 60-minute clip, and I will see you on the other side. Enjoy.
Now, when we think, we use our minds. Now think of your mind. What image or picture do you see when I say think of your mind? You see, what most people think of when I ask them to think of their mind is they get a picture. If they get a picture, they get a picture of their brain. Now, it's important for us to understand that the brain isn't our mind any more than our fingernail is. Mind is the movement of every cell in your being as a result of the thoughts you think. Stay with me. Mind is the movement in every cell of your being, as a result of the thoughts that you think. So when you think of an embarrassing thought, your mind activates the cells in your body temple, and guess what happens? Your cheeks on your face begin to turn red. When I ask you to think of climbing up the high places, you know what happens to me? My mind activates cells in my body, and my hands begin to sweat, and my stomach kind of begins to get woozy. I'm afraid of heights. Some people get so attached to a thought or even a pattern of thinking that they can literally think themselves sick or worried to death. To death. Real physical manifestation of a heart attack or respiratory arrest, and they die from the thoughts that they think. Now, the brain is different than the mind. The brain cannot think. We think with the brain, but the brain itself cannot think. The brain is an organ that serves as the electrical and chemical switching station that kind of activates the movement of the cells, which we call the mind. You activate brain cells. That's what brings the picture into the screen of your mind. Now, since we know that we think with the mind, and the activity of the mind is really the creative process of how we manifest, we want to have a really clear picture of what the mind is so that we can work with that image and effect the changes that we want. changes that we want to make in our life, changes we want to make in our business, changes we want to make in our relationships. And since no one has ever seen the mind, we're going to use this diagram. We're going to go ahead and let this large circle here represent the mind, and the small circle represent the body. The body, if we really think about it, is just an instrument of the mind. Now, you see this horizontal line separating the large circle that represents the mind into two parts. A top part representing what we call the conscious mind or thinking mind, and a bottom representing the subconscious mind or really the emotional mind. That line that separates these two parts represents our ability to reason. If we were drawing this diagram of a baby's mind, we would only show the bottom half of this circle without the line of reason because, on average, a person doesn't fully develop the reasoning capacity until about the age of 13. So, from the time a baby is born until they develop their ability to reason, their subconscious mind is really an open vessel. What does that mean? That means that all the thoughts, all the images, all the ideas, think about this. Everything that this baby experiences that are present in the baby's life just drop right in. That is why it's so important as parents or adults that we be very guarded to what we expose our young children to, because once an idea, once a thought, once a concept or image is placed in the subconscious mind, it is there forever and becomes part of their permanent programming and conditioning. Now, in the conscious mind, we think. We can have all kinds of beautiful thoughts. We can gather all kinds of marvelous information, or we can gather all kinds of negative thoughts. It's this part of our mind where our free will lies, our ability to choose. We can accept or reject an idea. It's in this part of our mind that we can gather knowledge and learn new things. And when we do gather knowledge and learn new things, oftentimes we say, now I know this or now I know that. We can repeat it. We can be asked a battery of questions and answer those questions correctly, and we say, I know. It's an interesting thing, though, is if you've ever noticed that most people know how to do things, but they never actually do what they know. Think about your own life as I thought of mine. You probably know how to do a better job in certain areas of your life, but you don't always do what it is that you claim you know. I remember I was 65 pounds overweight and I really wanted to get into shape. I wanted to lose the extra weight. Now, I knew how to do that. In other words, I had an intellectual understanding. I had gathered all the knowledge about nutrition and exercise. I knew if I took in fewer calories and if I worked out to burn calories, I would lose weight. But having that knowledge didn't get me off the couch to do the exercises I knew how to do, or to put down kind of the pint of Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge ice cream that I was eating every night and picking up a salad instead. A choice that I knew was the right thing to do. See, a person's behavior and actions and what they know are not always in sync, are they? They're not always in harmony. We see this in sales all the time. A salesperson may know how to sell, and they may gather all the training and all the knowledge, but that doesn't mean that they're going to actually do the behavior that a successful salesperson does. I was training a group of salespeople one time and asked them how many of them ask for referrals when they make a sale. And shockingly, only about 3% of this group on the entire team did it on a regular basis. And so as I began to kind of press the team, I asked them if they knew that asking for referrals would increase their sales. And admittedly, they did. They knew it. And I asked them if they had ever had any training on asking for referrals. And again, they admitted they had. So when I asked them why they weren't doing it, their collective answer was just as I expected. I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You know. And they said, well, I know. And I asked again, well, then why aren't you doing it? And they said, I don't know. But you know how to do better. I know. Then why don't you do it? Well, I don't know. but you know it will get you the results you want. I know. Then why don't you do it? I don't know. See, people don't know why they aren't doing the things they know how to do, and they don't know how to change. But in this program, you will know why you don't do some of the really productive things you know how to do, and you will learn how to change that. I often work with people, and the number one reason people say that they are stuck is because they don't know how to do this or they don't know how to do that. And I explain to them very quickly. Chances are, even if you did know, you wouldn't do it. See, knowing how to do something has never changed or created anything. Think about that. Knowing how to do something. We're all attached to, I need to know how to do this. But the truth is, knowing how to do something has never changed or created anything. Knowing how to access and apply what you know, knowing how to access and then apply what you know is everything. And I'm going to show you how to do that in this program. Think of a student. A student knows how to study, but that doesn't mean that they're going to study. What we know is one thing, and what we're doing is another thing. Let's look at this diagram again of the stick person. This is what I refer to this drawing as, the stick person. It was originally created by Dr. Truman Fleet, the creator of concept therapy in San Antonio, Texas. He was a chiropractor and was involved in what we know today as holistic healing. But he created this image and his teaching back in 1930s. So at the time, this was cutting-edge science and a really major breakthrough in the area of personal development and behavioral science. Dr. Fleet knew there was a spirit, mind, body connection. And if we really wanted to heal someone, he was going to have to do more than just kind of work with a person's body. He was going to have to work with the whole being of a person, their spirit, their mind, and their body. Let's look at this top part of this image again. We see this represents the conscious mind. Again, this is the thinking mind. It's where our free will lies. This is our ability to reason and think creatively. Any idea we become involved in immediately passes into the subconscious mind. This is now referred to as our emotional mind. Now, in this part of the mind, our subconscious mind, we have no ability to reject the idea. In other words, any idea that is impressed upon the subconscious mind is stored there. And this part of our mind is where our beliefs lie. Our self-esteem is created and stored here. Our self-esteem, again, is our perception and belief of our personal self-regard, how we value ourselves, how we see our self-worth. This is also where our spirit lies. The early Greeks referred to this as our heart and taught that as a person believes in their heart, so are they. They weren't referring to kind of the physical pump as we know the heart today. They were referring to this part of an individual as their heart of hearts, their sanctum sanctorum. As a person thinks in their self-belief, so are they. Now, it's important to know that when we think, our thoughts are actually energy. When we think, our thoughts are actually energy. And as that thought energy passes from the conscious to the subconscious, that energy has a calibrated rate of vibration. And as all energy is subject to the law of energy, one of the laws dictates that all energy must be expressed. So as a person thinks, that thought energy, by law, must be expressed. Well, where can it be expressed? Well, it can only be expressed really in two places. It's either expressed in the body of the person thinking that thought, or in the behavior of the person thinking that thought. So we know when a person is thinking a negative thought, they have negative feelings. And generally, negative feelings don't feel so good, do they? So we can ask a person how they are feeling about something, and they will often reply that they are having or experiencing a negative vibe, right? I don't get a good vibe from this person. I don't get a good vibe from this place. What they really mean is that their thought is now anchored in their subconscious mind. Their emotional mind is vibrating, and all this energy does is it's vibrating at now this new negative frequency. Now, they don't say, well, I'm consciously aware that I'm in a negative vibration. They don't say that. What they do is they say, I don't get kind of a good feeling. I don't get a good vibe about this situation or about this person or about this group. That energy, positive or negative, it works either way. By law, it has to be expressed. So how do you expect a person who is thinking negative thoughts, having negative feelings in a negative vibration, how do you expect that person to perform or behave at that time? You guessed it, pretty negatively. This truly is the power of positive thinking, right? So as we look at the diagram of the stick person, we see an X-type thought in the conscious mind, being expressed as an X-type idea or concept in the subconscious mind. And we see that X-type energy in the body temple of the person, and then we see the arrow from the body being expressed in X-type behavior, and ultimately creating the only thing it can create, X-type results. Now, that X could be either positive or negative. And the error most people make is they want to change the results. So what they do is they try to change their behavior. The assumption is that, because the behavior preceded the result, that the behavior must be the cause of the result. But you know better, don't you? The behavior is at best a secondary cause. As you look at the diagram, what's the real cause? Of course, it's the original thought or image that the person allowed to be created in the conscious mind in the first place. Now, we can gather information, and most people do, from our outside world. Our media and social media today are very powerful tools of influence and persuasion for what you and I think. And you will notice on the stick person diagram in your workbook that there are 5 little antennas at the top of the conscious mind. Go ahead and write above each one of these the words see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, because these are our 5 physical senses. And most of us, from a very early age, have been programmed our entire lives to gather all of our thoughts from our outside world. We were told to listen to the teacher, watch what the other kids were doing, repeat after me. And so at a very early age, we were taught to simply accept information this way. And in most cases, not to challenge the information or the source that we were gathering, especially if it was coming from a source of, an authority figure or influence. Here in America, where I live, we teach our children to play a game called Follow the Leader. I'm going to suggest if you're going to follow anyone, you had better be certain that they're getting the results that you want, or chances are you're going to go end up getting what they have. And I believe this is why we mass produce average in the world today, because so many people are living and thinking life from a game kind of monkey see, monkey do.
All right, welcome back. So again, this diagram is contributed to Dr. Thurman Fleet, founder of the concept therapy movement in San Antonio, Texas. And if you think about it, he's talking about concept therapy, that there's a concept, that the ideas and beliefs that we have, that programming we talked about, creates a concept of who we are, becomes our self-identity. And so he was a chiropractor, and he was working in the healing arts, and he was trying to work with the whole person. Now, this is back in the 1930s, so this was kind of cutting edge thinking, right? He was tapping into the kind of the mind and the spirit and the body connection. And he was looking at it in the area of holistic health, but it certainly expands beyond just the health of our body temple. And so if you think about it, he was trying to do therapy on the concept of disease, that a disease first starts where everything starts, and that's in the mind. I don't think that there's been a day in my life that I don't take a pen and draw that diagram, or at least pull that diagram onto the screen of my mind to set goals, to solve problems, to go into solution-based thinking, to control my emotional state. It is such a powerful diagram and concept, and I want to make sure that I help you capture the real meat of the program. Now, of course, those of you who enroll in the program, the rest of this program, we're only about an hour or so into the program. The rest of the program is really going to be built on this diagram. It's really a thinking program, how we tap into the resources that we have. And so we'll spend much more time in depth, but we're looking first at this conscious mind. And you want to understand that there are 7 laws that govern the way that we think, behave, and manifest everything in our life. Now, these are universal laws. In other words, everything that you see that's created, everything, all the animal life, all the vegetation, everything you see operates and was created through these universal laws. These are the laws of creation. These aren't theories. These aren't principles. This is law. This is how, when God creates the universe, he creates order. And order is established through these 7 laws. So you see them everywhere. And since you and I are part of God's creation, we're in the universe, these laws are expressed to, with, and through you. One of these laws is the law of polarity. So we see that in our conscious mind, we have free will, right? And we can accept or reject any idea, positive or negative. So we can think of all the reasons why something won't work, or using the law of polarity, we can look at all the reasons why something will work. We can choose to be happy and joyful and loving, or we can choose to be miserable, sad, depressed. We have control over our emotional state, about how we're going to become emotionally involved. With our conscious mind, we are reasoning 2 ways. We reason inductively and deductively. Now, inductively is where we're gathering independent facts and then drawing a conclusion. Deductive is where we start with a fact. We define something. We start with a premise or a belief. And then we only look for facts that are in harmony with the conclusion that we started with. And so in our conscious mind, we reason both ways, right? We can start with a belief and then look for facts, or we can look at facts and then draw a conclusion from those. So in either way, whether it's positive or negative, we're working with thought energy. And if we understand kind of the laws of energy, energy really does 2 things, right? It expresses itself and it expands. So when we have a thought, by law, it's called the law of perpetual transmutation of radiant energy. It tells us that energy is always moving from form through form and back to form, right? So energy is in a constant state of manifestation, of expression, yeah? And it's expressing itself using the law of vibration, the frequency or the amplitude of the frequency of the thought. So in this way, we know that energy can express itself, and our thoughts are certainly expressed in our emotional state, aren't they? That if we think fearful thoughts or worrying thoughts, we feel that way. And we feel it in every part of our body. That's the power of the mind, right? Mind is the movement that's found in every cell of our being. Brain is the electronic and chemical switching station. But mind is the expression of the brain, of the thoughts that go through our brain. So when we're feeling, happy, we feel that in our body temple. We'll smile. If we feel embarrassed, we have embarrassing thoughts, what happens? Our cheeks turn red. I'm afraid of heights, and so when if I see somebody up high, my palms sweat. In other words, the thought energy is expressed in every part of me. My palms sweat, my heart races, my mouth gets dry. So energy, by law, is expressed. The second thing energy does is it expands. So energy expresses itself and it expands. This is why we call brainstorming, right? Where you have an idea, and if you're in the right environment and if you're with the right people, you begin to brainstorm, and one idea leads to another good idea, and to another good idea, and another good idea. We feel great when that happens. But also happens with worry, doesn't it? This is why we can, just worry about one thing, and the next thing you know, we leapfrog to the next thing, and then we leapfrog to the next thing, and before you know it, we're worrying about this and this and this and this. I kind of call this, MSU, where we graduate from, MSU, making stuff up. So we worry about one problem, we worry about one thing, and then we amplify that. I give an example of, someone's got a big meeting with a company, and they're, everything is riding on this. It's a big money deal, and they're on their way to the office to meet the client, and on their way, they catch the train. So they're driving, and then all of a sudden, the railroad crossing comes down, ding, 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 and immediately say, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late for the meeting. If I'm late for the meeting, the client's going to get mad. If the client's mad, I'm not going to get the sale. If I don't get the sale, I'm going to get fired. If I get fired, I'm not going to have money to pay the mortgage. If I don't have the money to pay the mortgage, we're going to lose the house. If I lose the house, we're going to be living underneath the bridge. If we're living underneath the bridge, we're going to have to eat out of the dumpster. And all this is racing through their mind, and then all of a sudden, ding, 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 what happens? The crossing guard goes up, and they did all that worrying for nothing. In that 3 or 4 minute period of time, they made this whole story up because the energy is expressing itself from one thought to another thought. And again, it works both ways by the law of polarity. Now, our subconscious mind works completely different than the conscious mind, yet the two parts work in harmony together. And when we are working with our subconscious mind, we're working deductively. So our subconscious mind cannot think. It has no ability to think. All it does is it accepts any idea, any concept, any thought, any image, any vibrational frequency that it's expressed to, that is impregnated in it. So from our conscious mind, if we're thinking a scary or worried or fear-filled idea, if we get really emotionally involved, that becomes anchored into our subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious mind operates simply by habit. When we're thinking from habit, or I shouldn't say thinking, but when we're operating from habit, we're really not thinking at all, are we? Think about it this way: when you're driving your car, isn't it true that you can drive places and get to your destination and not even remember driving? Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me. I don't even remember it. And so, we could be going 80 miles an hour on the highway. It could be raining. It could be nighttime. And we could be talking to somebody in the passenger seat, talking to the kids in the back. I've seen the ladies put on mascara and lipstick, changing the radio station or picking a new thing to listen to. Some people even texting while they're driving, talking on the phone, selecting a new song to play from their Apple iTunes list. And here they are, they're going 80 miles an hour. They're not thinking at all. Why? Because their subconscious mind, which is deductive, has been programmed to drive the car. It's doing all the mathematical equations and judging distance and speed. Now, here's what's interesting, is when that car going 80 miles an hour takes the exit and is now going to pull into a parking space in a busy mall parking lot where they have no cells of recognition, where they've never been before. Now, all of a sudden, they start to think. They turn the radio off, tell everybody to be quiet in the car, put the phone down, and all their conscious thought now goes, now they're only going 10 miles an hour. Now they're going to think. But when they're going 80 miles an hour, no thought at all. And you know what? There's more accidents in the parking lot than there are on the highway. Why? Because when you programmed yourself to drive, you programmed yourself to drive safely, perfectly, cautiously. Even though you can do all these other activities, your subconscious mind is on red alert. It's making all the decisions and getting you exactly where you need to be. Do you know that we live probably 85% of our life from a deductive program state? Most people make decisions based on how they were programmed to make decisions. We interact with other people in relationships based on what we're programmed. Whenever you're trying to learn a new skill or a new talent, whenever you're trying to learn anything new, The goal is to get it to where it could be automatic, where you don't even have to think about it, where it becomes your default behavior. And it's your subconscious mind that does that. But your subconscious mind also is where your self-belief lies. Your self-image is stored. Your self-value, your self-esteem, your self-concept, hence the name concept therapy. So anything that gets impregnated in the subconscious mind, your subconscious mind accepts it as truth. And not just truth, but your truth. It accepts it as your truth. It has no ability to reject an idea, and it operates exactly by a law. You know, for the first half of my life, I was programmed because we grew up poor. We grew up in a poor environment. Think about where you grew up. Think about the people who were around the table when you were in a little bassinet. Think about the conversations that were taking place with the adults when you were playing on the floor as it relates to money. Were they talking about how much money they had? About how fair things were financially? Were they talking about prosperity or poverty? See, the first half of my life, my little mind was deductive, and we were programmed that money doesn't grow on trees, and that, you know, people who have money only have money because they took advantage of other people. I mean, we demonized the rich at 430 Coolidge Avenue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. We didn't think that everybody had a fair shot. We didn't think that anybody in our family would ever become a millionaire. I was programmed with poverty consciousness, and then you know what I did? My deductive mind went out to prove that. It started with this idea, okay, you're poor, you believe you're poor, you're destined to be poor, you're a high school dropout, you don't amount to anything. And all I saw were opportunities that created more poverty. A $4.10 an hour, you know, minimum wage job as a roofer that I hated. I was never able to break free from that until I was introduced to what I'm sharing with you and what we teach in the Fully Resourced program. And then I stepped into my birthright. Dominion over all things. What does that mean? That means that we have dominion over the frequency of our thought. We have dominion over the concepts that we hold. We have the ability to alter any vibrational frequency we have. And as far as we know it, we are the only creations by God that can do it. You'll never see an acorn programmed and destined to be an oak tree one day say, you know what, I don't think I want to be an oak tree. I think I want to be an orange tree. You'll never see giraffes say, you know what, I think I want to be a monkey. I'm going to change my concept. They can't do that. But you and I, we can do that in just a moment's notice. We can choose to be, do, or have anything beyond our current conditions and circumstances by altering the vibrational frequency in, by altering the thoughts that we hold, by making those thoughts the dominating thought. And that's what I began to do. I began to focus on prosperity consciousness. We've got an upcoming program. You have to get in it. It's called Double Your Income. We'll be releasing it probably in mid-August. When it comes out, get in it, because it will change and challenge every paradigm you have about money. And it's specifically designed to teach people about how to double their income. And you know, here's the interesting thing, is at first blush, everybody wants it. Consciously, we think, I would love to double my income. But then in our belief system, in our subconscious mind, we say we can't do that. And so we immediately kind of reject the idea in our conscious mind. We say, well, we can't do that. We look at our past results. We say, we've never been able to do that. We think to ourselves, oh my God, I'm killing myself to make $60,000 a year. How could I ever make $120,000? So we don't even try, because we buy into some concept or belief system that was programmed into us when we were 5 years old. Where else in our lives do we allow the past to equal our future? Nowhere. But with money, we seem to do it all the time. And so I was able to reprogram my mind, and being fully resourced, we teach you how to do that, from poverty consciousness into prosperity consciousness. We want to really begin to think. We want to really begin to understand how we think. And what I mean by that is we want to understand how we think as it relates to manifesting and creating the life that we want. A life of abundance, a life of joy, and a life of love. And if you think about it, most people can buy into the idea. Most people buy into the idea that thought creates. Most people most people grab that. Most people will agree. I have a little problem with my hip, and so I've got a Theragun here, right? And I turn this little thing on, and it vibrates, and kind of a massager. It's fantastic. But what is this? We say, well, this is a Theragun. It's a massager. Well, that's one thing it is. You know what else it is? It's the unrejected idea of somebody. Somebody had an idea for this before it manifests into physical form. This pen was an idea in the mind of somebody. Everything has its ancestry as thought. And we buy into that. We say, yeah, absolutely. And in the full presence and awareness of that, we have to ask ourselves, then why are so many people struggling financially? If that's true and you believe that, then why are people living a life of settle for? Why are people living their life money may I? Why are so many people sick and tired of being sick and tired if they have the ability and the potential to do and have whatever it is that they want? Why would they sign up for financial struggle? Why would they sign up for being sick and tired? Why are so many people filled with confusion and uncertainty about their future? Why are they scared and worried about what the future holds for them when they create the future? Why would that be? And I'm going to suggest it's because they're ignorant, meaning they don't understand the laws of their being. Why are people so unhappy and depressed? In America, we have over 20 million people who take a daily antidepressant. If we have dominion over all things, if God's given us free will, why are we filled with unhappiness, uncertainty, fear, worry, financial struggle? Here we are, we are God's highest creation, given dominion over all things. Given dominion over all things. To live abundantly, it's our birthright. It's our birthright. It's how we were created and designed to operate. And yet we're not taught how to think to create that life. We're taught what to think, but we're not taught how to think. We're not taught how to access our resources. Most people have no idea what the 6 intellectual faculties are. And these intellectual faculties are mental muscles to help us think more clearly, to help us think at an elevated frequency. It should bother you if you don't know those. It should bother you if you can't rattle off what this, like if you can tell me that your 5 senses are that you have the ability to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. If you can do those 5, you should be able to rattle off your 6 intellectual faculties. And you should understand how to use those to create and design the life you want. And if you can't, that should bother you. It would bother me if I knew that I had more potential and I didn't know how to use it. You should know what the 7 laws of creation are. You should understand what they are. You should understand how they operate. You should understand how they're expressed in your life, in every area of your life. You should understand how to live in harmony with those. And if you can't, that should bother you. Because the moment you can begin to think in harmony, with the laws of your being, with the laws by which you were created, you unlock a whole new world for you. And it should bother you if you don't. If you don't know how to set and achieve goals in a predictable way, in a very lawful manner, when we set goals, it's an intellectual process. Goal achievement is a lawful process. That should bother you if you don't understand how to do that. You are fully resourced, and none of these things are wanting in you. None of these things are wanting in you. Not at all. See, we start with this idea that nothing new needs to be added to you, that you are fully complete, you are fully resourced. The moment that you can create the idea in your mind, the moment you become aware of an idea, and you can consciously pull that idea into your awareness, you are instantly and automatically connected to all the resources necessary for its fulfillment. You're instantly and automatically connected to all the resources within you and within the universe for its fulfillment. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to uncover them. It doesn't mean that you don't struggle. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be sacrifice. All those are necessary and requisite things for the fulfillment of your dream. There is a price to pay. That's one of the laws, isn't it? It's the law of cause and effect. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you put a lot into something, guess what you get out of it? If you put a little bit in, guess what you get out of it? But most people don't even know how to think in this way. And the way we do this is we intentionally and deliberately place ourselves in an environment where we're going to be challenged, where we're going to be held accountable, where we're going to be believed in, where we're going to be supported, where these ideas are spoken of, accepted, talked about, anticipated for you. That's what the Fully Resourced Mentorship Program is all about. It's not just a content dump. It's about saying, I'm going to commit to myself for 1 year to not only understand the laws of my being, but to walk within them. I really hope you see yourself as worthy as doing this. I really hope you see yourself as a worthy investment to get into this program. You know, it costs absolutely nothing. $0 investment to click on the link below and learn about the program. It costs you absolutely nothing to have a 15-minute conversation with someone on my team, for them to hear what it is that you want to create in your life, to share with you how the program works, how you can enroll. It costs you absolutely nothing. You're not listening to me on Father's Day weekend here in the United States on a Saturday morning by accident. You don't really think that you're tuning in. You don't think that you kind of caught this on Facebook by accident, do you? You don't believe in accidents or luck and chance. You don't believe in a place called out of the blue. If you're hearing this and you know there's more for you in your life, and you've been asking for more in your life, perhaps this is the sign for you to do it. Perhaps this is the nudge. Perhaps this is an answer. And so I want to just encourage you, click on the link below. I hope you jump into this mentorship program. Study the program. Join me for a year with hundreds of other people every single month. Get into big talk. There's lots of small talk in the world today. Get into big talk. I believe in you. I believe in your dreams. Hold your image and have a fantastic Father's Day weekend. God bless.